up, guys? I'm back with another video. Sorry it took so long. I'm gonna be sniffing a little bit because I got a bit of a cold that I'm trying to get over. So yeah, that's unfortunate. So you'll probably hear me sniffling and stuff in the video a little bit, but I'm just trying to get over this cold that I got. But before we start this video, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Share this with your buddies. Make sure you turn on all your post notifications so that whenever I drop a new video, you guys will be the first to see it. Now before we get into this video, I wanted to ask you guys, I know a lot of you probably got a big car collection, or some of you may not have a big car collection. Some of you may be just starting out. But do you have a big collection to the point to where you can afford like the clear cases that each one of your models can go in? And the reason why I'm asking is because a lot of people are able to afford like the cases, the clear cases in which, you know, you can store your cars so that, you know, they could be free from dust and everything like that. But there are also people who can't afford it, you know, and they have to use other means or other ways of trying to keep their cars dust free. Now, I just realized that there is a very cheap way that you can actually cover your cars and they can remain dust free with this one method. And I just figured it out the other day when I was sitting here trying to brainstorm on how I could keep my cars from being dust free. Now, I have a huge collection, and the thing is, it's hard to maintain them and keep them dust free. And I had to figure out a way to keep them covered so that they don't keep getting dusty. And I figured out a very cheap and effective way that you can actually keep your cars dust free from you never having to clean them or anything like that. And I'm about to show you what I have come up with. Check it out. This is not just any type of plastic. Now, if you look, these are hair nets. The nets you put on your head, you know, when you're working in the food industry or anything like that, or any job that requires you to cover your head or anything like that, or, you know, shower caps, things like that. These are very effective. And I found that to be a thing. And I'm about to zoom the camera and look. Now, if you look over here, you can see that some of my collection is actually covered with the hair nets, and I think it is definitely very effective. You see, I still got some that I have to cover, but if you use these hair nets, this is definitely a way that you can cover your cars without having to ultimately get the clear covers, you know, because, you know, a lot of times people can't really afford those. And they're just people who just are able to. And I have a big collection. Like I said, you know, what I just showed you was just a small portion of it. That's not even cracking the surface of even half of my collection. But, you know, these hair nets right here definitely come in handy because they stretch. They have the elastic on the inside there that you can just wrap around the whole car. And there is excess plastic, so usually what I'll do is I'll tuck it up under the car and then I'll sit it down. And then that way, you know, the plastic is there, but it keeps it protected and it keeps it dust free. So for anyone out there who's looking for a way to cover your cars and you don't have money to be able to afford getting those clear plastic car cases, you can always go the cheap and effective way, which is shower caps or hair nets or anything of this sort. I usually would go with these plastic ones with the elastic at the bottom. At least with the plastic, it'll keep it covered, as opposed to the other type of hair net, because I feel like dust could still get through those. But the plastic ones, I think they're more effective, and it will keep your car dust free. So just keep that in mind if you're looking for a way to keep your cars dust free and you just don't have the funds to be able to put your cars in a nice clear case or anything. If you just can't afford it, this just is another cheap and effective way. And these actually cost me $1, and it comes with like 15. It comes with like 15 hair nets in a pack for $1. I bought these at the Walmart, and they also have a 30 pack that was like $1 and like 62 cents, something like that. But it came with like 30 hair nets. So, you know, I stockpiled up on them because I have a very big collection. So, you know, when I have the time, I'll do maybe like a row at a time and then clean them up real nice, shine them up real good, and then just cover them up with these hair nets. So just remember that the next time, you know, you want to figure out a way to cover up your cars. So enough of that. But today, guys, I have a banger for you. I have the holy grail, and I do mean the holy grail of cars. This is one car that I would say in my book is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And I'm telling you, this is one of the cars I have been longing for the longest time. Like, I've been wanting these so bad and for so long, and I could not find them. Now, I'll tell you that you can find them all day long in 1/18 scale, but when you go down to 1/24 scale, they only have these in the plastic models where you put them together, which is, you know, I don't want those. They do have the die-cast metal, but it's actually fixed in a way to where everybody has these, but they're put together a certain way, and I'm about to show you what I'm talking about. The DeLorean DMC 12. And guys, this is the real deal. This is not a plastic model. This is not fixed in a Back to the Future thing. You guys know this is the car that was in the famous Back to the Future movie that came out in the 80s. Now, this is the real deal. So don't think this is a plastic model. And I'm about to prove to you that this is the real deal. And this is the Holy Grail. Now, you know, most of the models that they make now are just the Back to the Future versions. And the other ones that they make, the plain ones that they make, nowadays, you can only find the plastic models, which you put together, you know, by glue. But this is the real deal. Here's my proof. There's the box. You see what that says? Welly. This is the real deal. You see what it says right there? 124 die-cast metal. This is the Holy Grail. I have been wanting one of these for the longest time. You can see it says DeLorean in the background. I still have the stand in there because this definitely is the Holy Grail. I'm definitely planning to keep this box. DeLorean DMC 12. And you can see it right here on the side. Premium collectible by Welly. And as you can see right here on the back of the box, it just has a little rundown of the DeLorean DMC 12. But everybody knows this car was definitely famous for the Back to the Future movie with Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. And you could see that this is definitely the real deal right here. So you guys are not looking at a carbon copy, plastic, Japan out of the box, put together by glue. No, this is the Holy Grail. This is the real deal. And just to show you, you can see right down there on the bottom, it says Welly. So you know that this car actually goes with that box. Scale 124 DeLorean, and you see right there, it says Welly. So you know that this is truly the real deal. I have been wanting one of these for a long time, and this spans back a few years. Every time I've tried to look one up online, I've always either gotten the plastic models you put together, or it would show the time machine version, or I would get the 118 version, which you can actually find that they have online, but I'm not interested in the 118 version because I only collect 124s. So 118 is not going to do me any good at all. I don't want a 118. I strictly buy 124s, and this one was practically literally the hardest to find. And the crazy part about this find is you guys are not going to believe what I paid for it. Okay, so I went on this website called Mercari, and you know they sell various things, and I have it set up to where I specifically only search for 124 scale diecast cars, and every time it renews itself, it always gives me a notification of all the new posts of any 124s that surface that others may have posted on the website. Maybe after I looked at it for about a day or so, it's going to be some new posts. So I was laying in the bed one day, and something told me to check Mercari. Check Mercari and see what type of cars they got for that day. And I was scrolling, and I saw this box, right? So this is the first thing I saw. I saw the box, and the car was in the box, but it was, I want to say the box was, okay, they showed the back of the box. It was the back of the box. So at one point, no. It was the bottom of the box. There we go. It was the bottom of the box. So at one point, I was looking, I was like, It made me go back to it because I was wondering if it was the 124. Now, when I saw the blue box, my gears started clicking. I'm like, hold on. It might be the 118. That's the first thing that came to my mind. But then as I was scrolling, then I saw this. And I saw it from the front. And the thing that made me pay attention was this. When I saw that, it made me literally jump up out of my bed. I literally jumped up out the bed and I said, no, I am dreaming right now. I'm literally dreaming right now. This cannot be real. So when I saw it, I literally jumped at the opportunity to grab it. And the crazy part about it, guys, is that this individual was selling this car for only 20 bucks. 20 bucks. Now, they have an offer thing where you can go down on the offer if you like. So I took the offer down to 17 bucks. The guy happily accepted it. And here I am, the new owner of a hard to find, rare, Welly 124 scale die-cast metal DeLorean DMC 12. I could not believe it. Like, I'm still flabbergasted at the fact that I even own one of these in the hardest scale to find under the Welly name. And I was so shocked, but I was excited at the same time, because I would never thought in a million years that I would have one of these in my collection. Not the Holy Grail, you know, because you can do the plastic models all day long. It just don't feel, to me, it don't feel as much like having it as having the real deal. Like having the hard to find DeLorean, you know. And you can have the time machine, and yeah, the time machine was cool, but at the same time, I just felt like I wanted the DeLorean minus all the time machine parts and everything. I wanted the original. I wanted it stripped away of all the Back to the Future components and everything. I didn't want all that stuff. I just wanted the plain 124 scale DeLorean. And by God, I found it, and it fell right into my lap. I was so lucky to find it that day, guys. Like, I'm still like flabbergasted to this very day that I am the owner of a rare 124 scale Welly DeLorean DMC 12. And I'm quite sure a lot of you guys, a lot of you may not know, you know, the history of the DeLorean. And a lot of people are not aware of the history of the DeLorean. So, you know, I want to give you a backstory a little bit. So let's travel back in time. You see how I did that? Back in time. So let's travel back in time, and let's take a glimpse back at how this DeLorean came to be, because this guy, who we all well know, his name was John DeLorean, and this is what he looked like in case you guys don't know. John DeLorean used to work for GM, and he managed, you know, the development of several vehicles, you know, under his brand, you know, while he was with GM. And he developed the Pontiac GTO, pictured here. He also helped develop the Pontiac Firebird. Also, the Pontiac Grand Prix. He did the Chevrolet Cosworth Vega. And later on, which he went to do on his own, was the DeLorean DMC 12, as you see here pictured. And he kind of ran into some legal troubles. And, you know, we're not going to really get into the discussion of what it is. I mean, I'm quite sure if you guys know the history of John DeLorean, you know, he had some some issues, some legal issues that he had to kind of sort out in court and things like that. And he left GM, after he helped to develop those 4 cars that I was telling you about, which 3 of them actually became, good sellers. The GTO, the Firebird, the Grand Prix, they all became good sellers. Like, they were selling. Now, the DeLorean, however, was a whole nother story. You see, when DeLorean left GM, he wanted to start his own company, and he started the DeLorean Motor Company. And that's where things started for him from there. He developed the DeLorean, which came out in 1981, and it lasted until 1983. It was ultimately the only car that was brought to the market by fledgling company. It said the DeLorean is sometimes referred to by its internal DMC pre-production designation DMC 12, which was never used in sales or marketing materials for the production model. They first made this car in January 21st of 1981. I was only a year old by that time. And the model years was only from 81 to 83, which was assembled in Northern Ireland. So this car, he felt like, was an accomplishment for him. He left GM and he wanted to start his own car company, and this was his pride and joy. This is what he was proud of. He was proud of this accomplishment, to be able to have his own car named after him. And the thing about these DeLoreans is that these all came in one color. What I don't know if you could really call it a color. Because they were all stainless steel. That's the only color, I guess. I don't know what you would call it. I mean, stainless steel. I don't know if that's really a color, but that is what ultimately they all came in. It was stainless steel. So that's the only color you can get from that. Now, a small number of pre-production DeLoreans were produced with fiberglass bodies and are referred to as black cars or mules. After several delays and cost overruns, production at the Dunmurry factory, located a few miles from Belfast city center, finally began in late 1980. DMC changed the name DMC 12 on its now $25,000 car in favor of the model named DeLorean. The DeLorean sports car, as it was described in advertisements, began production in December 1980, with the first production car rolling off the assembly line in January 21st of 1981. Okay? The DeLorean Motor Company was placed into receivership in February 1982 and was filed for bankruptcy on October 26th of that year, just a few days of the arrest of John DeLorean, based on some legal actions. I'm not going to say what it was for, but it was some legal actions. And Consolidated Internal purchased the unsold DeLoreans and partially completed DeLoreans still on the assembly line and assembled approximately 100 cars to finish the remaining production on December 24th, 1982. Okay? So they could not be finished, right? Now, let's look at some of the key things that this car had. It was a 2.85 liter V6. It only produced 130 horsepower with 153 pound-feet of torque. That's really nothing at all. It either came in a 5-speed manual or 3-speed automatic. The car weighed approximately 2,700 pounds. 0 to 60 in 9 seconds on a manual transmission and 11 seconds on an automatic. Top speed was 109 miles per hour, according to Motor Trend magazine. Now, as far as the performance and handling, while the DMC 12 had a distinctive design, its performance was not as impressive as it looks suggested. The 2.85 liter V6 engine, while adequate, wasn't particularly powerful for a sports car. The car's weight and handling contributed to its relatively slow acceleration and top speed. The gull wing doors, which they are on there, the gull wing doors, while iconic, were not without their quirks, with issues like door locks that sometimes needed assistance to open. So as you can see right there, the DeLorean already started to develop some problems. And that was an issue with the DMC 12, because the thing is, you know, when you have a car like this and and the problems that you're talking about dealing with here, like it makes a difference. It makes a big difference. And when you're dealing with stuff like that, it becomes an issue. It really becomes an issue because, you know, you try so hard to make a car based on you try to make a car based on what you can assemble. But for him to try to go in on his own and create a car company, I think there was just a lot of, I mean, his hope was to have a lot of upside to it, but it came with a lot of downside. Let's put it like that. Because the car has so many issues with power, performance, more like interior issues, little small things that contributed to the downfall of the DeLorean. Okay, the design and features. They say the DeLorean was known for its distinctive brushed stainless steel body and gull wing doors, which became iconic after the movie Back to the Future. I'm quite sure a lot of you seen Back to the Future. Very popular movie. That's what made this car so iconic, was because of the movie it was featured in. And I think they did, what, 3? Back to the Future 3? I think they did like 3 movies with the DeLorean. Standard features included leather seats, air conditioning, a stereo system, and power windows and locks. The car was available with a manual or automatic transmission, as well as a choice of interior colors. Now, based on a historical context, the DeLorean Motor Company's business was negatively impacted by financial issues, legal problems, and the high cost of development, ultimately leading to bankruptcy. See, so that's why I say, even though his hope was to have an upside when he wanted to create his own car, it came with a major downside because there was so many issues and so many problems. The car's popularity soared after its appearance in Back to the Future, turning it into an iconic symbol of the 1980s and the movie franchise. The DeLorean DMC-12 is now a highly sought after classic car with many enthusiasts and collectors seeking to own and restore these vehicles. See, so not only do you have people trying to hunt one of these down, but at the same token, me as a diecast collector is also, you know, at one point looking to sort out one of the most rare cars in 124 diecast form. And I was able to find one. So that to me was a win in itself. You know, and I love the fact that I was able to score one. You know, so that is what I love about having that. And let's see, because there are some other things that DeLorean also had that you also need to understand. And because this car was so iconic, it came with so many issues. But I think the major thing about this DeLorean is just the fact that because so many people see this iconic, legendary car as something that they gotta have, I've actually seen people take this car and modify it. I've seen the DeLorean come in different colors because people have now done some modifications to it. I've also seen someone do an engine swap in one of these, and which is really cool, you know. And it had a now, you know, this car is a mid-engine. It does have an engine in the back, so you know it's not a front engine car. This car is definitely a mid-engine. The engine was in the back of this car, and so that was the great thing about this. So he tried to pull all the stops out to make this DeLorean what he could really do with it. And yeah, I don't know. And like I said, you know, he tried his best, but his best just wasn't enough. And it didn't really turn out to be exactly what he wanted it to be. I mean, this car just came with so many problems and issues that they had to, it was just so many things. Like here, DeLorean early production models in particular suffer from poor quality build and mechanical issues. Early production cars needed as much as 200 hours of work at DMC quality assurance centers prior to being shipped to dealerships for delivery. DMC eventually sent 30 factory workers to the quality centers in the U.S. to learn about the problems and how to fix them. Quality did improve over time, and by 1982, many of the quality issues had been resolved. 4 recalls were issued by the factory to correct problems such as a sticking throttle, front suspension issues, and an inertia switch. Other quality issues included additional problems surrounding the front suspension, clutch pedal adjustment for lack thereof, brake rotors, instruments, in particular the speedometer, power door locks, and weak alternators. Many early DeLoreans were delivered poorly aligned with the toe end incorrectly set, leading to premature tire wear. In addition, many dealers were reluctant to perform warranty work on DeLoreans since DMC owed them money for past warranty claims. Some dealerships were not able to perform repair work properly, as DMC never issued a proper service manual. The lack of quality service at dealerships was a point of frustration for many DeLorean owners at the time, particularly those who paid over sticker price to purchase one of the first cars. You see, so that right there tells you that this car had a major downside. There was so many things going on with this car, and there were a lot of frustrated owners. That's why this car did not sell as great as Mr. DeLorean thought that it would have, and thus having to fix all of these problems. That means it was a cost in money. They had to figure this out. They had to figure that out. How do we fix this? How do we fix that? And then it was just like issue after issue after issue. And there was problem after problem after problem. Frustrated customer after customer after customer. And it just got to a point to where it just didn't work out. I mean, the car was a complete dud. It was a flop. It was a lemon. I mean, what else do you want to say about this car? I mean, it was a complete flop, you know. And there are many cars that, you know, that people have had in the past that's been produced that didn't stick around long because they were complete flops. Like, let's be real here. Like, this DeLorean may have been an iconic car based on the movie, but from a customer's perspective, the real car, the one that you have to drive every day, was a complete disaster. It was a complete disaster. And people just wasn't happy about the production of this car. And that's why it did not market well. People were not happy with what they received. They overpaid for a car that did not deliver, thus putting this car into immediate bankruptcy. That's why it only lasted from 1981 to 1983, a short period of time, because the car was an absolute failure. And so many people were frustrated and angry because DeLorean company just wasn't getting the job done as far as correcting the mistakes on this car. And it was just like, it was to no end that eventually they just had to call it quits and let it go. So the cost was too much because people were complaining about a lot of big issues, small issues, a little in between. And it just cost them so much money to correct these mistakes that it wasn't worth it. So they had to file bankruptcy. And that was it. And you had a lot of unsold DeLoreans that just did not make it after that. I mean, that was it. You know, and so nowadays when we see a DeLorean, the only thing we think about is the movie Back to the Future. You know, it was a great iconic car for the movie, but that's why this car is so relevant today, only because of the movie. You know, what Michael J. Fox and what Christopher Lloyd did to make this an iconic car. Even though in reality, this car was nothing but a complete flop and a failure. But they made it one of the most iconic cars, you know, in the history of movies. You know, this is the only thing you think about when you think about a DeLorean. You think about the time machine. You think about Back to the Future, you know. And I do have a picture of the DeLorean as the time machine. As you can see right here in this picture, there's the DeLorean dressed up as the time machine from the iconic movie Back to the Future. And you can see how it has all the components on it. It has the time circuits, which was inside the car, which is this picture here. Those are the time circuits where they put in, you know, exactly what time and what year that they want to travel to. And I know you guys remember when they traveled back, when they traveled to 2012, when in the movie, if you remember, they did travel to October of 2012. So that time circuit right there, that is where they put in the time and the destination as to where they're going, the day and the year and all of that stuff, you know. And not only that was not only the component, then you had the flux capacitor, which is pictured here, you know, which consists of a rectangular shaped compartment with 3 flashing style tubes arranged in a Y configuration, which were described by Doc as what makes time travel possible. The device is the core component of the time machine. And you know, as the time machine nears 88 miles per hour, light coming from the flux capacitor begins pulsing more rapidly until it becomes a steady stream. Dr. Emmett Brown originally conceived the idea for the flux capacitor on November 5th, 1955, when he slipped on the edge of his toilet while hanging a clock in his bathroom and hit his head on the sink, which actually caused his death. And then you have the Mr. Fusion. You know, the Mr. Fusion home energy reactor is the name of a power source used by the DeLorean time machine in the Back to the Future trilogy. It can be seen for the first time at the end of the Back to the Future when Doc pulls into McFly's driveway after a trip to the year 2015. It was a piece of technology he was only able to obtain due to his journey to 2015. Maybe it was 2015. I was thinking maybe it was 2012. Maybe it was 2015. I could be wrong. Maybe it was 2015 when he went. Maybe it was October of 2015. So maybe that's what it was. I could be wrong about 2012. Maybe it was 2015. Which in the movie existed by then. It is a parody of Mr. Coffee machines, which were very popular at the time of filming. The appliance from which the prop was made was actually a Krupp's Coffina model coffee grinder, which you can see in the picture there. It does look like a coffee grinder. Yeah, it really does. But yeah, those just a few of the components that they use to put together to make the time machine, to make everything work, and things like that. But as you can see, according to this model, it is everything that you know that needs to be said. You know, I described just about everything in this car. Now you can look for yourself and see. It does have the iconic gull wing doors. And you can see DMC right there on the front grille. As you can see, it was, you know, a plain gray color on the inside. But as they said, they did have different colors that could be presented inside this DeLorean. And I also told you that this was a mid-engine. Let me just flip it like that. Okay, there it is. And you can see the engine right there on the inside. And like I said, the engine was meh. It was meh. Because it didn't give you no horsepower. It wasn't all that great. Let's just put it that way. And you can see right there on the back where it says DMC on the plates. I always did like those iconic tail lights. I love those tail lights. And right there on the bottom left hand side of the bumper, lower bumper, you can see it says DeLorean. And you can see it also has the double tail pipes. And yeah, this is the DeLorean. And like, I'm so excited to actually own this. And you could see that they call this the window louvers, which you can see it would be literally hard to look through these, and you could barely see through your rear, through your rear window when you got these louvers on the back like this. So that was the hardest thing to be able to do when you got louvers on your back window. It's got the original DeLorean wheels on it, as you can see. And the DeLorean, it had like a very strange and weird shape to it. Like, it's set low, but it almost had like a, as you can see, it has like a kind of like flat. If you look at it, it's kind of like a low slung, flat, square, boxy look to it. And I think that's what it made this car so unique. And you could see, looking at the wheels, that the wheels in the back were actually larger than the wheels in the front. And it's just one of those cars that you'll never forget, because Back to the Future made this car iconic. Now, had Back to the Future not ever used this DeLorean in their movie, this car would actually be a forgotten piece of history. Like, this car would be totally forgotten unless somebody out there brought it up to say, remember this DeLorean? Remember when John DeLorean brought this out? That was the only time where we would remember it. But then it's like, we remember it now and then forget it later. But like, Back to the Future made us to never forget the DeLorean, because they made this car so iconic. So that's why, you have so many enthusiasts who are so adamant about seeking out a DeLorean DMC 12. These are so iconic movie cars. These are very iconic movie cars. Just like a lot of iconic movie cars you've seen from other movies, this also makes one of the most iconic movie cars as well. But I'm happy to own this DeLorean, and believe me, I'll be holding on to this DeLorean for a long time. Okay, it took me, I went through hell and back trying to find one of these, and one literally fell in my lap. And that's the crazy thing about it. And I'm so excited to actually have one in my possession. So I want you guys to look at the 1981 DMC DeLorean. And hey, look, like I said, I got lucky getting this thing, and it is so And like, I'm so blessed to be able to stumble upon the one car I have been wanting in my collection for so long. Now I finally have it. And there you have it, guys. That's my DeLorean DMC 12. And today, like I said, if you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, subscribe to this video. Tell your friends about this video. Maybe they can, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments what you think about this once in a lifetime holy grail of a car that was produced by Welly, and it's so rare and so hard to find. Like, it literally just fell in my lap, and I'm so blessed to have it, and I'm so blessed to have it in my collection, and I think it was just meant for me, and so, just let me know what y'all think, and what was your best memory or worst memory about the DeLorean DMC 12, and just let me know in the comments. And until next time, you guys out there, stay safe, stay healthy, stay prayed up, and take care of yourself.